I think the best description of time I've ever heard is that time is the thing that stops all events happening at the same time. So things get separated and we call that separation time, and that's the best way we can understand it. In physics, the notion of time has gotten very complicated. Originally, it was thought that all clocks in the universe ticked at the same rate, that a clock here and a clock somewhere else, the same second would pass. But what Einstein showed us in the early 1900s is that that's not actually true, and clocks can tick at different rates depending upon how you're moving and where you are. Our clocks are very accurate, which allows our telescopes to be very accurate, so we know where an object is going to be at a certain time. But what we also know is that when we look out into the universe, we see places where clock rates would be different to clock rates here. So 1 year passing on Earth is not 1 year for somebody traveling at high speed. So time has become a very rubbery concept. It's not as rigid as it used to be. So when Isaac Newton did his work back in the 1600s, you had space here, and space was where things moved around, and you had time, which was completely separate. Time ticked along. And that representation of the world was the world as Newton saw it, and we would call that classical mechanics. What Einstein showed us is that it's not so rigid. Time and space can be mixed up. Sometimes space can be like time and time can be like space. So it's a little bit messier. But what you have to realize is that to see those effects, you need to be traveling at high speeds, or you need to be near very massive objects. So this notion that we have that time is regular is actually just an illusion, because we move at slow speeds and we're not in very strong gravity. But while people might not care, they actually use it every single day. Everyone now has a smartphone. So if you want to know where you are on the planet, you just say onto your smartphone, "Where am I?" And you might not think so much about how it works it out, but it has to talk to satellites. Your phone receives signals from satellites, and based upon that signal, it works out where you are. To get that measurement accurately, your phone and that satellite have to agree on what the time is. But that satellite is moving at 20 kilometers per second. And that satellite is in a slightly weaker gravitational pull to you are on the surface of the Earth. Your smartphone has a correction in there to account for that speed and to account for that difference in gravity. If it didn't, GPS wouldn't work. So while you might not care about it, the person who invented GPS really cared about it. Time is important for me because of my job. Time isn't important to me if I'm reading a book with my feet up. It might be when I have to realize I've got to cook dinner, but my time as part of my job is very regimented. So time is important, but only just to make sure that I do things in the right order.